Hi, this is Steve Lombardi, and this is your Legal Minute. Today I'm going to take a few minutes out of my busy schedule to discuss with you an answer to a question which I seem to be getting repeatedly. I want to make sure you're hearing me, so listen to this carefully if you want to know how to value your case and how the lawyers will value your case. There are two, and just two, things you need to know in order to value your case. The first is you have to have an assessment of the issues of liability so that the lawyers can determine, or the fact finder will determine, what your comparative fault may be and how much of your damages you'll actually collect. The second thing that you'll need to know is you'll have to have a handle on what the damages are in your case. So let's talk about these two things. In Iowa, we have what's called comparative fault. So in order to determine liability issues in your case, you first have to know who is at fault for causing the accident and was the injured person partially at fault. If the injured person was partially at fault, you need to know how much they were at fault. If they are to be considered more than 50% at fault, they will collect nothing for their damages. If they are less than 50% at fault, then they will collect the percentage of non-fault that would be applied to them. So for instance, if you're 51% at fault, you get 0 damages. If you're 49% at fault, you get to collect 51% of your damages. So the first issue that we have to look at is whether or not you're at fault. In this regard, we also look at whether or not you followed all the necessary recommended medical treatment. If you didn't follow the recommended treatment, you can be held partially at fault for causing the damages. And so what the jury would have to assess is whether or not what you did in some way increased your damages or failed to reduce your damages. So we have to look at that. Now let's go to the damage issue. On the damage issue, there's several things we have to know. We look at two categories, past, and then we look at future damages. In terms of past damages, we want to know, what are your medical expenses? How much are your medical expenses? Do you have any wage loss? If you have wage loss, how much is it? Then we look in terms of pain and suffering in the past. If you had surgery, or you have a really bad limp because you've got a really bad non-operable spine condition, a ruptured disc that they can't operate on, then you're going to have a great deal more pain and suffering than a person with a soft tissue back injury. When we look at future, we're looking at future medical expense, and in that regard, you got to have medical opinion to support it. We look at reduced earning capacity, permanent physical impairment or disability, and then we start to look at pain and suffering. It seems like everyone wants to jump to pain and suffering and tell the lawyers how much they hurt and how miserable they are. But really, before we get there, you got to talk about the hard damages. You got to talk about how much medical expense you have in the case. What's it say on the paper? We got to know that. What are the doctor's opinions and what are they saying? Once we have an answer to that question, we can then start to evaluate pain and suffering and decide what your case is worth. So I hope this helped you. If it didn't, write to me. More than happy to take some time out of my busy day to try and talk with you to answer your questions. This is the Legal Minute. This is Steve Lombardi with the Lombardi Law Firm in West Des Moines. If we can help you, check out the contact information that follows this video. Thank you.